Yeah, yeah.
Hello, welcome to Inside Out Alignment, another episode, that platform for self-discovery and creativity. Your host, Mary Tapper, and today we are blessed to have Elise Marie Collins with us. And she is an author, an aging thought leader, and yoga teacher. Thank you so much, Marie, for accepting to be here with us today.
Thank you so much. I love the title of your podcast because it really aligns with my mission to be inside out alignment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. And that's why you're here. Yeah, and I see you have that. You would love to talk about mental health. Like when you talk of mental health, how did you get interested in that? What like really pulled you to getting, that feeling of, that interest into that subject?
Yeah, I think for me because I always saw mental health on a continuum. It's very subjective. Even if you look at the Western diagnoses of the DSM of like what are mental disorders, they're very arbitrary. And for the past 20 years, I've been studying yoga and the sister science of Ayurveda. And in those traditions, there's no separation between the body, the mind, and the spirit. It's all together. So that is what interests me because I've increased my mental health and wellness by doing certain practices that are healing and healthy that maybe release past trauma or past upset, or it could be something small or something big. But I think we're all impacted by maybe difficulties or traumas in our childhood, and then whatever happens, last week, a few years ago, and maybe our fears of the future. So I found that the tools of yoga and the Indian science, it's like a well-being science. I don't know what else to call it because it's a study of life that helped me to really be more present in the moment and by healing all of my past and also letting go of my worry for the future.
Wow, that's interesting. So, how do you practice this, or how do you get to that mental state where you let go of that? Is there like like steps that you take, to get to that point where you are, fully yourself and you have some control over the things that you're doing, maybe, or letting go the past and then getting into the future or that goal or whatever you're trying to, to reach out?
Yeah, well, I want to preface it by I'm human, we're all human, and it's a gradual process.
Mhm.
And with the kind of yoga that I teach, I mean, I've studied all types of yoga, but the yoga that really intrigued me and I'm really drawn to teach is called restorative yoga, where you relax your nervous system. It's not meditation, but it's like different forms of shavasana where you lay, like one person said it's do nothing yoga, or someone said you just lie on pillows in comfortable positions, but you really teach yourself to relax. And I think in Western culture, that's very important because we're such a go, 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 especially in the United States. We think we have to be open 24 hours a day. Well, not now during the pandemic, but, um, you know, people are work a lot. We'll just put it that way. Even though we're sort of shut down now, there's a lot of overworking. So that practice of restorative yoga. And then for Ayurveda, which is the Indian science of well being, having a daily routine is really important. And I think that that's underestimated again, in modern society because we have different schedules every day. But I wake up and try to do the same things, not every single day, but pretty much every day. I follow a little routine and it feels very comforting and grounding. And I can get into more of releasing the past, but I'll just stop there and see if you have any questions.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. So, you talked there is I know we all might have challenges in our lives, things that have hurt us or things that we've had to work through to be able to come out, and maybe be stronger, come on the other side. Yeah. And you've had one of those challenges in your life. And that was where you were living in the Bay Area with your son's father, where things were not really, working well or something like that. So, what happened during that time, and how were you able to actually ground yourself and pick yourself up back?
Yeah, I think, well, being a parent is always very challenging on many levels because you're giving a lot of your energy to that child, and that's very important. At that time, the Bay Area, well, it's still very expensive. So I just wasn't working out energetically to live with my son's father. We weren't getting along, and it didn't seem like things were getting better. And I just came to a point where I realized I was trying to stay with my partner, his father, in order to help him, but it really wasn't helping him because he was seeing such conflict. And that it just one day, I mean, I can't say a particular thing, but I just came to my own realization through inner work that no, this is not helping him. I'm doing the worst thing. I'm modeling conflict in a relationship. So I decided to leave, and I came, and I still live in the Bay Area, but I live with my parents, not in San Francisco proper, but in the Bay Area. And at first it felt, like there's a stigma. Going to live with your parents is a negative thing, but I've since turned that around, and I think it's actually very positive to live with my parents at this time in their life because this was like, I can't even remember, I think it was about 4 years ago. And so my parents are older, and so I've been really helping them. They're very independent still, but I help them with some things, daily that might, like taking out the trash, and some things that they need help with, especially during the pandemic, taking them shopping. My mom still goes out, but my dad stays home more. And so, yeah, I think that I've gotten more powerful through that interdependence of generations, and I've fallen back onto that, and that helped me through that difficult time.
And yeah, I know you just talked about stigma, how people say, you're going back to your parents and all that. And I think that is even a wonderful thing. Why? Because many people don't even have that option. Many people, even out here, they feel like, how wish I had somewhere I could go,
Yeah,
somewhere I could fall back, someone to whom I could fall back, when I am down or when I am in a certain situation. People don't have that. So for me, it's like, wow, that is a good thing to have your parents where you could go back to because our parents are always there to receive us, you know, they, and you go back and then it's time to reflect back and, you found that has helped you to ground yourself back. And not only that, during this unprecedented time, they need you more than ever. You know what I mean? They need
totally.
you. Yeah. I live where I live. I do shop for elderly couples because they are not they can't go out often. So all I do is when I'm going to the store, I text like a day before, what would you like for me to get, from the store for you? And you just get those for them and then you drop them off and it makes your life much more easier. They appreciate that so much. So I can only imagine how happy and how grateful they are that you are right there, their own daughter, being able to take care of them during this time. So that's a beautiful thing. So in everything, we have to, if we find the truth in it, if we find, there's always something good out of it. And it's not really, but that's why I usually say, not really usually say, but this is inside out alignment. You know, there is always something good in things that happens in life. Maybe that is your parents needed you more at that time. Maybe you needed, you needed that space to be able to find yourself and be grounded, and which is a beautiful thing. So for me, that's great. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
That is great. And I love you talking about aging. Most of the time, I hear people say, when we get to like 40, we're like, oh my goodness, I'm old. And most of the time, I would say, you know what? They are just numbers. And it's a blessing to have more numbers. Why? Because it tells you how much you've been here. And it's just your mindset and maybe the way you look at yourself and how you carry yourself. That is all that really matters. Those numbers, celebrate them and be thankful for them. So I know you have much, to say about aging. Can you share some with us?
Yeah, so right around the time that I moved out, a friend of mine who's a publisher, I've published some books with her in various companies. She told me that the company, she said, I have this idea, or I don't even remember whose idea it was, but she said the word super ager. And if you look that up, it's kind of a new buzzword, super ager. I didn't know what it was at the time. I said, "Oh, what is a super ager?" But I was very intrigued, and I thought, I felt this intuitive, like you're talking about alignment. I felt aligned with it. I just said, I want to do that. I said, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to be a super ager, but I want to. I want that. And so I said yes. And it took some time for the contract and for the writing. But then I wrote the book. I have a postcard. This is the book I wrote. This is not the book, but the postcard. I don't have the book is over there, but the cover looks like that.
Beautiful.
And so I wrote the book, and I loved studying aging, and especially from my perspective of being a restorative yoga teacher. I think that the practice of yoga and a lot of ancient practices, I want to say, because the places on the planet, ancient practices can help us because we know that the places where people live the longest are places that are mainly isolated. The modern world hasn't crept in. The modern world can be very stressful. So the blue zones, there's a term in a book called the blue zones, which is very interesting, and it talks about places where people live to be over 100. And a lot of those places, 4 out of 5, there's only 5, and 4 out of 5 are islands or places that are hard to get to. So the people lived like they lived hundreds of years ago. The only one that's in a modern place is Loma Linda in California, which is Seventh Day Adventist. And the one hope about the Seventh Day Adventist is that they just self isolated, because they're a religion, and they're vegetarian, and they take time off, and they're very family and community oriented. They also have a very long life expectancy. But what that tells me is we as humans in this modern world, we could form our own groups, and that's my interest in life, is how could we create or make communities where people are living, and not just living longer, because I think that the communities where people are living longer are living better. They're living in I don't even want to say the word holistic. I want to say they're just living more connected to their deeper selves. They're in alignment, using your words. They're more in alignment, and that I think helps you to live a longer life. So that's what I'm interested in.
Wow. And I like the way you say it, like you say aging is fun and glamorous and exciting. What would you say to somebody who is out there and will feel like, you know, I'm 50 years old and this is just it. I am so old and, you know, there is nothing for me to be looking forward to that much because I've seen so many people like really get frustrated with their years. Maybe they're 50 or something. I've heard a lot, especially also women. We don't even like to mention our age, and because we feel so, I don't know, but it's some frustration, or we feel like they'll look at us as we are just so, we are not, we are no more part of the, I don't know. There is not that, we don't feel like we belong, something like that. We feel like we are getting to somewhere else, which is maybe somewhere we don't want to be. Because I feel if we feel really aligned, we'll be happy. But if we are sad and feeling, a little distorted because of our age, then something deep in us is saying something else, which is not really uh, giving us that confidence to accept and just love ourselves and enjoy life. What would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I just want to say I love I love the way your questions have a lot of depth, and I can just feel and see. I know not everyone is looking on this podcast, but you have a lot of depth. So I just want to appreciate that in your face and your eyes.
Yes.
And yeah, for me, I also, after I wrote my book, I ended up going to graduate school and studying gerontology because I loved it so much. So I really did learn so much about aging, how aging is seen around the world, and the different problems of aging. And one of them definitely is ageism. And the way that I wrote about it in the book Super Ager, and how I continue to work on aging, is two ways. One is to work on the inner alignment, because I think the more internally aligned you are, uh, and you can do this through, it doesn't necessarily have to be yoga, but maybe your own meditation practice, or people do qigong. There's so many practices. It's what feels right to you, your inner alignment, because the outside world is very ages, stigmatized towards aging, among other things. And there is a lot of treatment of women. You're like an object. How your age affects that is you're not as form. There's in yoga and spiritual traditions, it's like your body is your form, but you have something else inside you. So I teach people to align with that inner beauty. And then I find women they're centenarians that are gorgeous. I think they're gorgeous, and if they're not, a lot of them are not in Western culture, but they believe they're beautiful. But I think our Western culture has some ideas that we've internalized. So the other part I want to say is, if you have role models. So in my book, I have a lot of stories of older adults, and also on my social media, I try to highlight stories of older adults who are living their purpose and doing what they love. And I think that is so important, because when you start to think that you don't have a purpose, or as you were saying, sometimes you feel lost or frustrated, then it can just get you very down. So I try to tell people stories of, for example, there's a yoga teacher. She recently passed away, but she lived to be 101 years old. And you can look up her podcast. Her name is Tao Porchon Lynch, and she's amazing. She was always very positive, beautiful. She started doing ballroom dancing when she was 80, I think 89 years old or something like that. There's one lady in the Philippines, and she's a traditional tattoo artist, and she's, I think, now 103 years old, and she's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
She's in my book. So I have a lot of older adults in all ages, from 50 to over 100. And I think they inspire us, because I had grandparents I don't have any grandparents that lived to be over 100, but in their 90s. And I saw them doing exciting and interesting things. I see my parents doing interesting things, but not everybody has, uh, like, close to them, older adults.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And when you talked about the lady learning something at her age 89, that is something so amazing, to like really look at, because sometimes we feel like we have this self-talk, self-sabotage. Oh, I'm not young enough. And is that literally like just brings us down and blocks us from being coming to that place where we can look ourselves and even appreciate that we are even thinking about something we can do. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking and then you're like, oh no, I am just, I'm just too old. Don't say that about me. And that blocks us from being open or being receptive to a lot of things because we have those negative self-talk. That the moment that we start appreciating ourselves, because there, when people usually like say, the saying that you cannot give what you do not have. So whatever is coming to you that is positive, because you don't have that in you, because you don't have even, you cannot acknowledge that of yourself about you, it becomes so difficult to even accept that when somebody else says something to you and be like, and they are so sincere about it that you feel like it's no, it's not. Just like somebody might see your shoes that you've been wearing for so many years. Maybe you are the only person who is even aware that you've been wearing that maybe for 10 years. And then the person say, oh, I love those shoes. You're like, oh, I've had this for 10 years. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
so it's kind of like we just have to try to change our mindset and being able to just love ourselves and cherish ourselves, because even that helps us. It makes us you look younger if you look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, oh, I love myself. Sometimes I just go in the mirror, and look myself and say, oh my goodness, God took time to make me. You know what I mean? And I'm
yes,
like, man, because I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I just love myself. Just tell yourself those words. They help us, like, really, they ground us down, and you walk out with confidence, and it helps you being grounded, and it makes you even look younger. The more you say, okay, I look young and I feel young and all that, it becomes, because our words are so powerful. They are
yeah,
so powerful. So I think our mindset and our inner talk also has a lot. Our environment, where we grew also has a lot to do about all that, what
yeah,
others say. And when we start thinking about what others are saying, a lot about it, we talked about, stigmatizing and all that. Yeah, we believe in that. Yeah,
yes,
that's why getting really connected to our real essence of life is very important, because that gives us that, it grounds us, and we know how to deal with the things that life throws at us,
yeah,
even in a better way. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you also had a back injury at age 20.
yeah.
How, what happened?
Yeah, that actually brought me to yoga when I was working. I was working at this recycling center. It was kind of a recycling and reuse center. And
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, it's kind of ironic because back in those days, there was, if anyone, there was giant computers. The giant computers were, people were getting rid of them. So at this center, I had to go into a van, and somebody asked me to pick up one of these computers and move it somewhere. I don't even remember, but it was so heavy and so big. And the worst thing you can do when you lift something is twisting and lifting. Don't do that for your back. And I injured my back. And so I always think, ironically, and oh, I forgot to tell you, the computers were going to be donated to India. They were going to be sent to India as a donation. And so, ironically, the computers going to India caused me to start taking yoga classes because at the time I didn't have insurance. The place where I worked didn't have insurance, and they begged me. I liked the place; it was a nonprofit, but they didn't have insurance, and they said, "Please don't report us, don't report us." And I had, my heart was open, and I didn't want to do that. So instead of instead of going to more Western medical, I mean, I did get checked out. I was okay, but I ended up really devoting myself to yoga, and that's how I got into yoga, and that really changed my life. I was also studying meditation at the time, but I brought in meditation and yoga, and the physical practice of yoga. It's really been important to me through all these years because it made me feel so good. It made me feel so good, besides even the injury. And I thought, this is how I want to feel all the time. That was very important to me. So, from that back injury, I came to yoga and I haven't looked back.
That and that actually made me think of something like things happens in our life, and uh, the fact that first it wasn't in your mind to report them because you know that they didn't have insurance, and being in that positive mindset, and got you to start yoga, and from there you haven't left it. So sometimes things happen to take us to another path or to make us discover something really amazing, what you've discovered, and now you're using that to help others.
Yeah.
See, that's just looking at in the navigation and how other things come out of the situation. Yeah, that's awesome. And you also do walking. So when you talk of walking, where do you walk, and how people talk of, because some people talk of walking meditation, people talk of, there are so many things about walking. Can you try to expatiate on that about your walking style?
Yeah. Well, I do have, you can't see her, but I have I have a chihuahua. She's on my lap. So she's kind of looking up. And I walk with her every day. I usually walk in the morning. And one thing that I've realized, and there's a lot of science backing this up, it's really important to get light in your eyes for better sleep and for your daily rhythm, your circadian rhythm. So when I learned about that, I always take her out in the morning and get light in my eyes, no sunglasses. It's not like you're staring at, getting bad light in your eyes, but the light resets something in your brain. The clock, every one of us has a clock in our brains. And so it helps you actually sleep better when you get that light in your eyes besides walking. And
Hmm.
then I just enjoy the walking in the morning, and sometimes I'll go on hikes, more in nature. I'm lucky to live right across the street from a park, so I enjoy walking in the park. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast and shout out for listening to podcasts while you walk. And sometimes I'll just walk in silence, especially if I feel sometimes my mind feels a little scattered or overwhelmed. And I find I get a lot of ideas by walking. I know from my study, I mean, for years I've been studying holistic things. That's why I've actually written a few other books, but I love to study and write and learn about different practices. And one thing walking does is it entrains your mind. So, we can all relate to when you're thinking too much or you just can't calm yourself down and you're thinking a lot of different thoughts and you can't really get clarity. We know what that feels like. Maybe you have to make a decision and there's a lot of different competing ideas, or what should I do, this or that or this. And so what walking does is it takes sort of what they call the monkey mind, and because your brain has to do something to walk, put one foot in front of the other, so it entrains the mind, and then you're just walking, 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 and then the mind starts to calm down because you're giving it something to do. We need to give the mind something to do, and then what I think happens is the clarity starts to bubble through. People also say driving is good because it's the same thing. When you're driving, you're focused on something you don't have to completely pay attention to. Same with walking. You don't have to say to yourself, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. Your body knows how to do that. But we are doing something with our mind, and then the mind doesn't have any more energy to keep
Hmm.
barraging you. So then you go, oh, maybe this is the right path. So I like to use walking as a way to think through things.
Hmm. Beautiful. And what would you say to someone who is going through? I know you also like emotional health. It's also one of your interests. What would you say to someone who is going through emotional? I don't know. I might say emotional pain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, well, I would say there's a couple of things. I mean, sometimes that emotional pain can just feel so physical. It's hard to maybe relax or sit still. So it depends how you're feeling in the moment or how you're feeling in general. Walking would be really good if you're feeling a lot of pain, sometimes even running or walking. In my area, we have a lot of hills, which are very tiring. Sometimes we actually need to tire ourselves out, get that exercise, get it out of our system when there's a lot of pain. Because I wouldn't say right away to do meditation or relaxing yoga until you've calmed yourself down, because then it's almost going to backfire.
Mhm.
Uh, I have clients who have a lot of anxiety, and I might have them do more exercise or walking or do certain things, not just sit, because when you sit, your mind can really, it can get worse in a way. So that would be the first step, is to find ways to calm yourself. Sometimes like a shower, a bath, something physical to really connect to the body, because I think we get
Oh,
sort of knocked away from our body and that really animal instinctual part alignment in our body. And then once you get to that place, then you could start more maybe meditation, but just be gentle on yourself in the beginning. And then you can start gradually and make it very, never ever beat yourself up when you're trying new things. Do one yoga pose a day, or if you like qigong, just do a couple things. Just start with these little things, and then you feel success, you feel like you feel the benefits, and then you want to grow that. But I think what happens to a lot of people is they start with this big goal. They're going to go from doing no meditation, they're going to suddenly do an hour a day, and that's, start with 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes, or one yoga pose, one qigong move, and then you start to appreciate it and feel the benefits, and then you want to do it more.
so being consistent, that's the key.
Yes, much,
Okay.
I think much more important than big jumps.
Thank you. And what advice would you give to your 21-year-old self?
Ooh, I love that. um, I think just being more open, confident, and not letting the outside world in any way influence me, which is hard because at that age, you feel I have a 21-year-old son. So it's funny because I think of that a lot, because I think of what would I have told myself, and it is not to worry about what other people think. And but it's hard too, because you're sensitive. I think at that age you're also looking, you're open, you're getting your identity from the outside world. I think it's an interesting time because we are recording this during the pandemic or the COVID-19, when a lot of young people aren't really interacting like they would. They
Mhm.
wouldn't be going out and socializing as much. And I think younger people find themselves through bouncing off of other people, and that's natural. But maybe that's why there's a benefit in this time, because you have to learn a lot of internal strength. Internal strength is very important. But I didn't have it as much when I was 21, because if something got me down, I might, instead of processing it on my own, I might just, I'll just go do something with people to distract myself. So I think I would say less distraction, more inner strengthening. And I eventually did do that, but I think the more you can do that, it aligns you internally, and then you work on your purpose and who you are. And that's actually what I teach everyone, because what I learned in gerontology school is, your life is like I think of it like you're going boop 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 boop. You're going on a trajectory, and you can always realign yourself, but it's easier from, from a younger age. You can get the alignment, so you go up you go up even more. You can do it later, but there's always possibilities, like to learn something new. Maybe for the example of the ballroom dancer, maybe you wanted to be a ballroom dancer when you're 20. Well, if you are 20, go for it. Don't just do the safe route.
Okay.
If you're 90 and you still want to do ballroom dancing, you can still do it. It'll be a little different, but do what you really feel in your heart. Align with that and don't worry about the outside world.
Whew, thanks. Yeah, can you talk to us about your book? If somebody want to get your book, where can they get it from?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, on IndieBound, which is independent booksellers. You can order it from any independent bookstore if you want to support your local bookstore. It's widely distributed, and it's also an audiobook. If you do want to walk and listen, it's an audiobook, so you can get it on Audible.
Thank you. Thanks. So make sure I have this on the description box. So when you do journaling, how often do you do that?
I'd say definitely a couple times a week at least,
Mm-hmm.
especially if something is, feeling heavy. I just think feeling heavy on my mind. That's how I describe it to my yoga students. I want them to release heaviness. So if something is kind of bothering me, something is, triggered in my mind, I'll do some sort of free form writing. That's my practice. Sometimes just writing things out. Sometimes I'm looking at different prompts or books. But yeah, I like to write because I think also using an actual pen and paper, I think is very powerful. I studied with somebody who talked about the connection between the brain and the pen. And, I do type a lot because I am a writer, and that's faster, of course. But something about using a pen is very powerful to me.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks so much, Elise. Um, I think we've come to the end of our great time together. But I just don't want to leave without saying this. First of all, when I publish this, we will have, your website. That's EliseMarieCollins.com, and people can also follow you on Instagram. I have everything here, so this is gonna be on the description box, and also we will have the book, the title of the book, and where they can get that from. So all that will be present on this episode, which will be on uh, early morning Wednesday. I mean Monday. Sorry. Yeah. I make sure I release everything on Monday. People can listen when they're going to work or when maybe they're traveling or start their day or something like that, preparing them for the week, which for me, it suits me. I like to listen like that. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much, Elise. If you have, do you have anything else you want to share with the audience today?
I would just say on my website, if you go, it's my name, my full name, EliseMarieCollins.com, and then you could go to the front page or /tips. If you sign up, I'll send you. I have 10 tips for super aging, and you don't have to be old. Like I said, you can be any age. They're just 10 tips that will help you to age well. I think also, all of us, we love our older relatives and younger, will help for younger people. So you can get those tips there. It's a nice little PDF that I'll send to you.
Thank you for the gift. So thanks again. It was a great time with you. Thanks for sharing with us. And just to say, I love your background. That's beautiful.
Thank you. That's my mom's, this wallpaper. It's from the 70s. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. Yeah. So, so listeners, thank you for being here and for listening to this episode. Make sure you take action. Make sure you contact Elise. I'm going to have her information on the description box of this episode, any advice or you need assistance with something that aligns with you with everything we've discussed here today, don't hesitate because there is always help. And I just want to say you're not alone. We're here. Reach out, reach out, reach out. Thanks again. It was a blessing spending this time with you. So bye
Thank
for
you.
now.